Hey everybody, Craig Hester here with R2AWatches.com. Thank you for joining us. Today's show is about the Expedition Underground Everest from Vostok-Europe. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and hit like and subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, you want to join the Vostok-Europe Timepieces group on Facebook. That is a closed group, but it is the busiest, most active, and most interesting group of guys and gals who talk about all of our watches that are available at R2AWatches.com, and you definitely want to be a part of that group if you've become a fan of our watches. Today, we are talking about the Expedition Underground Everest, again from Vostok-Europe. If you're not familiar with Vostok-Europe, there are some great videos at R2A Watches YouTube channel and on the blog at R2AWatches.com, where you can find out pretty much everything you want to know about Vostok-Europe, from the construction process to how they design their watches, and from soup to nuts. So, I will just tell you real quick, they are based in Vilnius, Lithuania. They are a boutique brand. Every watch is hand assembled there, and they are all designed from the ground up there in Vilnius. Now, every Vostok-Europe has a story. They build every watch around a theme so that there is actually a story to talk about with the watch and not just another watch. The particular story in regards to this watch, the Expedition Underground Everest, is about the Krubera Cave in the Republic of Georgia. That is the country, not the state. The Expedition Underground Everest is referring to a spelunking expedition that went into the Krubera Cave about 5 years ago. That cave is actually the deepest cave in the world. It's a little over 2,100 meters deep. And this team went in there specifically to break the world record for the deepest spelunking or cave dive that's ever been done. And they did break that world record, and when they did it, they were wearing Vostok-Europe watches. Now, they weren't wearing this watch because this watch just came out in 2018, but they were wearing Vostok-Europe watches, and that is why last year Vostok-Europe decided to create a commemorative edition, a 5-year anniversary edition of the Krubera Cave Dive watch, and call it the Expedition Underground Everest. Now, if you are familiar with the Expedition North Pole, one of the most popular watches from Vostok-Europe, you're going to recognize that this is the same base case as the Expedition North Pole, but it is strikingly different in a number of ways. First of all, let me give you some quick specs. This is a 47 millimeter case that is from one edge of the case to the other, not including the crown. It is about 15, 16 millimeters thick. It has a K1 mineral crystal. The K1 mineral crystal is the best possible crystal you can get for a sporting watch, because it is somewhere between, well, it's not somewhere, I can tell you exactly where it is between. On the Mohs scale, a K1 mineral crystal is a 7 on the hardness scale. Sapphire is a 9, mineral is a 5. So with the K1 mineral crystal system, you get the best of both worlds. You get the shatter, nearly the shatter resistancy of sapphire, and you get, nearly the shatter resistancy of mineral, and you get nearly the scratch resistancy of sapphire. This is surgical grade stainless steel. These are 20 ATM dive watches, so they are professional grade dive quality watches. Now, what are the big differences between this model and the Expedition North Pole, if you're familiar with that? Well, first of all, this model is the first time that this case has had a unidirectional rotating bezel, which you use for elapsed time measurement, ostensibly for diving, but you can use it for other things as well. It's a nice quick way to have an elapsed time measurement on your watch. The other big changes are that this has the YN84 movement in it, the Seiko YN84 movement, and that movement gives you a power reserve indicator. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute, and it gives you a 24-hour sub-dial. This watch also has tritium tubes, which the original Expeditions did not have. This is the first time in this case that there have been tritium tubes. And in this particular case, the configuration is really awesome because it's a sandwich dial, so the tritium tubes are actually on the bottom dial, and they have this little cutout around the dial that you can see here, which really makes for an interesting look on the dial. Now, this particular model there are several models in the Expedition North Pole collection, but today we're talking about the A543. The last 3 digits on any Vostok-Europe are the unique digits to that particular model. So this is the A543 we're talking about today, with this really light, kind of charcoal-ish sunray dial, which really has a fantastic pop on the sunray. And also it has this really beautiful etching on the back. I love the case design work that Vostok-Europe does. I'm going to take a second and wipe this off. That Vostok-Europe does on the back of the watches. They make sure that that is just as much a part of the overall design. In this case, you've got the image of the spelunker entering into the Krubera Cave. So let me get back to some of the features about this movement and what makes this special. The YN84 has a power reserve. Now, if you're not familiar with what a power reserve is like a gas gauge for your watch. If you look right up here, you'll see where this goes from 0 to 40. Well, what that is referring to is 40 hours of power reserve. When this watch is fully wound, it will run for 40 hours before it will stop running. So let me make sure that you understand, this is not a quartz-driven watch. This is not a battery-driven watch. This watch has an actual mechanical movement in it that has jewels, in this case, 22? How many jewels are in the YN84? Let me look. Yes, it's 22. In this case, the YN84 has 22 jewels. So what the jewels are, those are synthetic ruby jewels, and every place there's a friction point in the movement, those jewels act like ball bearings. But they use the synthetic rubies because they last a lot longer than any metal ball bearing would, especially in something of the miniature size that a watch movement is. So with this movement, you get the power reserve, as I was saying. So that's why it'll run and then it's going to stop. Basically what you're doing is you're winding up the watch. Now, this particular watch is an automatic, and that means that it has a rotor on the back of the movement that winds with the movement of your wrist, and it'll wind the watch. It will not overwind the watch. They have a clutch mechanism, or otherwise it would damage the movement. It has a clutch mechanism that allows for the movement to stop being wound when it's fully wound. Now, when you get the watch fully wound, if you look here, you can see this little hand is moving, and as this hand continues to move, it shows you how much power you're giving the watch. Now, if you wear the watch every day, it should stay relatively close to the 40-hour mark because you're winding the watch as you wear it all the time. If you put it on your dresser, though, on Friday night, by Monday morning, it's most likely going to be out of power because the chances of it getting a full 48 out of a movement whose manufacturer spec calls for 40 hours, the chances of it still be running on Monday are pretty slim. Also, you can put them on a watch winder. In fact, we're going to have really great watch winders from Vostok-Europe coming very soon that you can wind and store. They're just beautiful. But that's a conversation for another time. So those are the main specs of the watch. Again, it is a 20 ATM. That makes it a professional grade dive quality watch. Now, you may ask the question, I've never gone diving in my life. I have no intention of going diving. Why would I care about that? Even if you're not a diver, even if you're not going to ever even set foot in a swimming pool with this watch, the fact that it is 20 ATM is a sign of the quality build of the watch. You have to have great seals. You have to have high quality construction in order to pass the 20 ATM test. In fact, with this watch, along with every other Vostok-Europe dive watch, comes a certificate with the limited edition number. Every Vostok-Europe is a true numbered limited edition. In this case, this is number 361 of 3000. That shows you that it passed the water resistance test before it was shipped out. So you know it's ready for any activity. Vostok-Europe's slogan is for going to extremes. Their watches are built for heavy duty sporting activity. Now, in terms of straps that come with this watch, the standard package that you're looking at here comes with the silicone, the black silicone, a very supple, soft silicone, which is great for sporting activities, and a nice kind of chestnut brown on the leather. One of the things I've always liked about the Expedition straps, and they carried this over from the North Pole to the Expedition Underground Everest, are the rivets at the end that connect when it connects to the case. The fact that it is a triple leather piece of leather. There's the base underneath and these two additional stripes that go across. It's a double tang buckle. It is just a really, really fantastic custom strap design on the Expedition North Pole. We also have, on the Expedition Underground Everest. We also have some additional straps at r2awatches.com that would really be an excellent choice to pick up as an additional option. One has this green stripe on it. We have very few of these in stock, so if you're thinking about grabbing this watch, it's a go ahead and get it right away. This is not easy for me to say. This is not the strap that was intended to come with the watch, but we thought it kind of really worked with the pop in the green that's right there on the dial. It also does have the, just so you know, it does have the black PVD. So it's not a perfect match, but it is a really cool alternative. And then another option, if you want to have a NATO instead of the silicone for sporting activities, we have the straight black NATO, which is a really, really good fit for this watch. Now, one other important element of this watch that we really have to go over for you to understand exactly what you're getting is the packaging. The packaging on the Underground Everest is the classic dive case from Vostok-Europe. It's important to note, these are true Pelican cases. These are made in the same factory that the actual Pelican cases are made. These were custom designed by Vostok-Europe. So it is a serious, you can hear when you close it, this is a water resistant timepiece. If you, water resistant, everything's a timepiece in my life or a watch. If you want to use it for other things besides the watch, you can take the insert out, and it's great for boating or whatever. And one other really cool little aspect that comes with the Expedition Underground Everest is the tool for changing the strap is also a little survival tool that has a number of really cool functions. First of all, you can open it up. This actually will change the strap on an Energia. I believe it works on the Lunaco too, but I know it works on the Energia. And then inside, you've got the changing tool for the Expedition North Pole. And one of the other really cool features, if I can get this to open up, is this tool has flint and steel. I'm not even going to try to do this here. I would end up slinging this thing across the room. But it's flint and steel for starting a fire, and it has a little tiny utility knife. So you're getting this really nice little survival kit, tool, pen, stylus, whatever you want to call it, that comes along with the watch as well. So there you have it. There are the main features of this particular Vostok-Europe Expedition Underground Everest, a serious professional grade dive watch that comes in fantastic packaging with 2 straps included in the main package. Tritium tubes. Oh, let me quickly say, if you're not familiar with tritium, tritium is, also there are other videos that we have that go in more detail about tritium. Tritium is the constant illumination technology. These are laser sealed glass tubes filled with a substance called tritium, which activates the luminous material inside the tubes. So this is always lit, meaning that you, unlike when you charge up superluminova, you can throw this in your drawer and a year later pull it out and it's still going to be showing light. These are really great for diving and sports. But again, if you're not somebody who's into that kind of thing, one of the things I love about having a tritium watch is in some of the low light conditions that you come across in normal everyday life, like going to the movies or on an airplane, the tritium is perfect because it's not so bright as it's going to bother anybody else, but it's bright enough that you can absolutely always see the time. So that is the Expedition, you can tell I've said Expedition North Pole 1 a number of times in my life. Expedition Underground Everest, the A543 from Vostok-Europe. I'm Craig Hester with R2AWatches.com, and keep watching.